Good for them.
Can we see? Campbell, are you?
He doesn't have a video on.
Yeah, I'm here. I will be on video in a sec.
Okay. We'll wait for you to get on video before we start the meeting. Okay. I'd like to make a motion to open the zoning meeting of November 6th. Okay. The notice is the application of David Shing and Elizabeth Wilkes, 37 Fox Hill Road, Tuxedo Park, New York. Tax map number 108-1-10-2, seeking relief from Village Code 100-9B2, where maximum permitted deck, porches, patios, verandas, terraces, and other above grade space shall be limited to 25% of the enclosed floor area, and 46.4% is proposed. And proof of mailings.
We have proof that 5 of the neighbors were notified, and that was the amount of addresses that were provided. And we have one green card that was received, Kathy Norris. That's all that I have.
Okay.
And proof of notice.
Yeah.
And the applicant presents.
Yes.
Are you presenting for the applicant?
I am the
And
applicant.
you are the applicant, yes.
First off, thank you for seeing me. Our home is it's a bit of unfortunate timing as we're actually the home that had the fire.
Sorry about that.
Thank you. It's we won't need to get into that too much, but I spoke with John about it on his recommendation. He said that we still go ahead and present to you, which I thought made all the sense in the world, even though we likely won't be building this for a few months. What we've already presented this to the BAR. And the BAR said, obviously that in concept, and let me share a bit more of context. But they recommended we come to you first, but they were looking favorably upon our request for this exception, obviously pending your review and your ultimate decision. The reason why we're seeking this additional decking, let me share a bit more of the history of the house first. Adele Colgate built the home, finishing it approximately 1930, and she loved dogs. She, I believe, had 38 dogs at its peak, and she built an annex, which is a building which it is contiguous. It's connected via an accordion connection. My mother-in-law is a historical preservationist architect, by the way, so I've learned a lot from her. So it's definitely an addition and separate from the main house. And this addition has an enormous deck, which you'll see in the plans, exceeding 1,000 square feet. And this entire structure, which is in total approaching 3,000 square feet, was actually built solely for the dogs. And the main home, which is what I now live in with my wife, our 2 daughters, and the soon-to-be third actually coming in about 12 days. Very lucky that we would miss this meeting and the baby come early, but I'm grateful to be here. And our home has, kitchen downstairs and a standard staircase and a contiguous family. And the deck, which I'm proposing and requesting an exemption for, would be directly off of that area. The walk from the current kitchen to the deck, we've now lived in the home well until the fire, but between us purchasing the home and the fire, we lived in the home for about 6 months. And I literally used the other deck 0 times. And the reason is because you actually have to walk from the kitchen through a little dining area, through a family area, through an accordion connection, which gets you to one corner of this annex I mentioned that's about 1,500 square foot floor print. Across the entirety of that additional annex And then about 30 seconds later, you get to this enormous deck. And, I think we're seeking this exemption because, and first off, in the renovation we're doing everything we possibly can to just be respectful of the history of the home. And preserve it, and actually trying to do a lot of research online, and it's actually been a bit frustrating. My mother-in-law is leading that charge, which is quite nice, but trying to figure out what was the original intent and how it was used. And this deck is without question original to Adele Colgate's use. And our best guess is that it was just used for the dogs to be able to run directly outside, because the floor, which was the kennel, was actually elevated from where the dirt is. So she built this so they could essentially walk out and staircases down essentially. It's, we don't want to have to remove that deck because of its just historical significance to the home. And what we're proposing is a deck addition for the plans, which itself I don't think is overly large. It's, approximately 500 square feet. So it's quite modest for the actual intention of the use, which is for a family to be able to cook food and walk outside to eat it on nice fall, spring, summer days. So that's what we're proposing. And from a design standpoint was why we went to the BAR first. They had some requests and recommendations in terms of how we actually design it to minimize this, what's already kind of a large deck that's always sitting on part of the home, but actually design it so it can even minimize the overall aesthetic impact of the deck, because then it's essentially kind of strapping across the entire back of the home. So that's what I'm here for.
You have a question?
Next one question.
First of all, I just looked at your calculations here.
Mhm.
They're not all 100% as far as the coverages, but at the end of the day, you do actually, and I was thinking your architect might have been here, but I've gone back to the house and you have captured the existing porches, the entry porch.
Yep.
The deck above the porte cochere,
Mhm.
and the 997 square feet of existing deck in the back.
Mhm.
So you are at the 46.4, even though it's not necessarily, doesn't seem to be accurate as far as your number. So for whatever that matters for the record or whatever, that's maybe your architect needs to be carefully looking at the areas when he goes back to the, right?
But what was off in which of the areas you mentioned?
They're all off just by like a jump. Like your, the 162, the 152 is, the 1652 of the existing condition is 1645. The deck as you count, which you have to interpolate
His
to
his
find.
math was off, is what you're saying. Just wanted to
Well,
make sure.
no, the scale of this, John, just the scale of the actual plans can't be scaled because they're scaled in shy of true scale on a print. So what I did was I scanned them,
You have the
Rescale.
updated one? The updated one?
Yeah, and so you
What
should
was
just
the one that you
resubmit
told me
something.
that They
He'd
updated it.
resent it, is that right?
Yeah,
John?
I,
The data, the new one. And is it different than the other one? In terms of the measurements?
well, I think we got to the same number, 46.4. He did give a lot coverage breakdown. I don't know. I'm sorry.
In other words, the only thing that you changed was the lot coverage.
It's a little fuzzy from enlarging what was pretty small to begin
Didn't
with.
change.
But he still came up with 19,111.
Now, when you do your,
I get 1128, where it's 1035. That was the biggie. So if he needs to check it, I mean, I may not be perfect either, but if we have assurance that it's to scale.
So you said and this is it's 1138 when
1128
1128,
Instead of 1035.
instead of 1035.
and this is for the total that's already
Decks
been
and
developed.
porches, the variance requested in your square feet.
That's the formal variance request.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Other question is, in the drawings, there's reference to grade, but in as much as it matters or not, certainly with regards to the history of the dog kennel, um, there is a concrete pad underneath the existing deck.
Mhm.
So then I don't know how that's counted in your overall impervious surface lot coverage. So that's another thing, if it goes in the record of what you've asked for,
Yeah,
that should count. And I'll
that's
let you see
something
that,
which
John.
also, that has no use. And in fact, to the extent it's helpful, that's something which we're without question going to be removing because it has standing water, the concrete pad. Exactly. So that will be getting demolished and
Okay, well,
it'll be going to dirt.
we would need to make note of that in the approval that that pad would be.
Would be removed.
Would be
Right.
removed,
And
because otherwise it,
grade is not.
yeah,
right.
otherwise it affects the coverage.
I understand. Okay, I'll make a note of that. We'll need
Yeah.
to document.
Right. Now, in reading your letter and following it, what how you've described this, being home, my son's 20, but I live with a house with a deck, and yes, I can totally empathize in your need for being near a kitchen, being out, wanting to go out to a kitchen and wanting to look at kids nearby. You have said that you don't use the deck that's out there now. The let's see, what should I say first? The 46% of deck, some of which you're acknowledging you're not using, seems like a big ask for a village who has a ruling of 25% for
Mhm.
decks in proportion to a house.
Mhm.
I don't know if, John, you've done any kind of analysis on, is this the largest ask for amount of deck per square footage of a house, but it's up there.
Just to
You have
clarify
any-
what I'd say that I think I'd love to just qualify this as not, I'm not asking for 46%. I'm asking for an incremental 500 square feet to be used. I understand the implications as to where it lands,
But it gets you to 46.
Correct,
At
but
the end
it's-
of the day, that's
but this is not an ask for 46. It's an ask for an exemption because to your point, we're already over.
right.
Because it's
It's-
grandfathered out, and I'm asking just for an incremental 500 square feet, which we would then be able to use as a family.
You're asking to exacerbate what is already over.
That is factually accurate. There's no question about it. And that, the reason why I was here is seeking an exemption from the BZA, just given the nature of the circumstances.
Yeah. But,
Yeah.
and then an
And-
aside to that, because you made it clear that your intention is to not take it down.
I would
The
prefer,
existing
correct, I would
deck.
prefer not to take it down because of the combination of its historical significance and look, it's not something, while it's something that wouldn't be used often. It's something where just reducing it, I think it would have some awkwardness to it. Because, the deck does go along essentially that portion of the home. So then we essentially have to cut it off.
Right.
And then it would just be an eyesore because it would be a fractional deck on portion of a home, and then the other part of the home essentially is left without
Right.
a deck.
Yeah. I'm
So-
not really accepting that that deck is historically significant to the house.
Mhm.
At all. And I'm not,
And what's the
I-
basis of that?
the basis of that is that it's built as if people are using it. It's got a bench around it. It doesn't look remotely like a kennel. It looks like kennels were below, and that was a roof for it.
That's not accurate. Because the slat is not solid. There's certainly not kennels below it. And
There's fencing, there's pipes there.
no, there's no fencing actually. There's only fencing on one side of it. There's no fencing on through two of the three sides. There's the building on one side and it's very light mesh fencing and there's no fencing on the other two sides. And it's easy to walk around it too. But that, I'm just for clarity, there's no way it was
Do you
used as.
have that this was dog kennels above?
We were seeking, not that it
Do
was
you have
dog
anything
kennels.
that shows that what I'm saying is different than what you're saying?
Well, I think what I was stating is consistent with just the layout and the kind of facts of the deck structure.
No.
But I do
I
have
don't agree with that.
documentation, so I can validate that the house was used for, that additional structure was used for the breeding of dogs.
Yeah, I don't doubt that because the
And
clue
that-
is in the tiny windows on the side that connects to the slab. I get that, and that would be interior dog kennels that you would walk out to.
There's no door there.
That
There's no way
doesn't-
to walk out,
That you could use it with the cover of the deck.
but there's no way
For
to
what
walk
purpose
out.
was there a slab there in the first place if it wasn't used for dogs?
We believe the slab to be structural because, and we've actually looked into
No,
this.
It's not structural.
Because if you look at the posts that are holding the deck upright, they're actually quite narrow. And we believe that the actual slab placed under it, and actually, I take that back, that was one portion. The second portion, we actually, this is anecdotal, but the Mixes who owned the home, two owners before us,
I knew that, yes.
would use the below portion for ice skating. And that they were the ones who'd actually, I believe, put the slab down, was my understanding of it.
The slab's not structural, just as a fact. That's not a debating an opinion. That's not what that's for at all. Regardless of all that,
Mhm.
your intention is to put a deck on the side of the house and connect to it. And this, John, this would be an interpretation for you, but I don't think that that deck is code compliant for safety with regards to a guardrail. It's got a bench, 18, 20 inches high, and then a back to a bench that's another 18, 20 high at the most. So just saying it for the public record, if we were to make that kind of observation, and me being a registered architect myself, children playing on that would indeed be a hazard.
Our
And though,
intention is to change all of the railings in that deck as well.
so you're touching it.
Correct, we would be making the modification to make it consistent because that was a request which the BAR had requested
So you're gonna change it all to the horizontal cabled
to the rail,
system,
exactly, that was their
which,
request.
although it meets international building code and international residential code,
Mhm.
that is a ladder that is also a hazard for small children, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Not code,
I
but I've
think
got to put that out there too,
we-
because
We would have openness to if you or the BZA were to request, some modification to the railing, we'd be open to that.
That
would really-
that would really kind of fall to the BZA.
totally
Yeah,
to the
and-
BZA.
and
I'm only saying it
You would-
because
I
I
mean,
see
I
it as a
Appreciate, yeah,
hazard.
which I appreciate.
Yeah.
you
The
pointing that
BZA
out.
needs to sign off on the railing.
Of course,
Yeah,
of course.
which, and we're open to that, I think
Yeah.
Yeah, BAR part.
BAR,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, but I mean, my request for you is just to have the exemption such that we can have this additional deck and not have to destroy or take down or demo this other deck. Just 'cause I think it would have an adverse impact on just the aesthetics of the house.
That's all my questions.
Nancy?
Yeah, I'm not sure why you don't want to take down the old deck.
For me, as I said, I think there's two reasons. The first is, I do believe it to have historical significance because it's attached to the kennel. It was to the space that was used for training. And it does have a function in that while I don't use it that often, it exists. It's not harming anybody. It's not an interference. And
Pardon, sorry?
it has a function and it's already been built. So to me, destroying something that's already been built that has a function, though not frequent, seems, unnecessary. I mean, it wouldn't cost us very much money just to demo it and rip it out. I just think the house would be uglier and I think we'd lose something which actually had historical significance. So I just think it'd be a real pity to change the way Adele Colgate had originally built the house. I really believe it's that simple. And I think it would also have an aesthetic, it would have a negative impact on the aesthetics of the house. Because we would essentially demo the portion that we have to, and it would just be left with a deck that's, much less sightly, because right now, if you look along the sight line, it would be covering essentially, as you can see from the plan of the house, there's essentially a notch, which the deck which we're proposing will be essentially inserted into. And then if we were to demo a portion of the other deck, it would essentially just be an abrupt kind of end to that deck. Which I just think would be uglier and unfortunate.
If I could, if you could just take the papers off the microphone.
Yeah.
And,
So-
and just call out, and John, if you could speak to this, or I don't know if you have minutes available from the BAR meeting, which I attended and made this request. Um, their view was consistent and favorable to what I'm proposing, which is that there is historical significance to this. It is not doing harm. They recognize that it's not in their authority to authorize the variance, but their view was that, the request is, and I believe Stephanie's words were, this is something I would, this is rare that I would be willing to consider an exception to this. But in this instance, I would, because this additional deck is an important component of just the livability of the home for a family of 3 kids, and the family just makes sense to have indoor outdoor living, both for enjoyment and also to have easy access to the kids in the backyard. And then second, it did not make sense to her to unnecessarily disrupt a deck which has some historical significance and relevance to the house.
Emily, any comments?
No, I guess just I haven't seen it since the fires. Did the fire change anything or change any of the thing you're
Nothing exterior.
Nothing on the exterior.
The home the home is a total loss. So we're
The inside got, the inside.
We're literally
But the
going
walls
to the
are
studs.
structurally-
Walls are structurally, exactly, but interior we're going to the studs on, the whole home right now.
I guess it's open the meeting to the public, but I'm not sure if the public's here, but except for Jim. I'd like to make a motion to open the meeting to the public.
Second.
All fair?
Aye.
Is there public?
Nothing.
Yeah, we had one written comment from Kathy Norris, basically in favor of the project.
Saying anything was okay.
But
She basically said anything was okay
Yeah.
that they wanted to do.
well, I mean, I think she was aware of what you were.
Yeah, I talked her through exactly what we're doing.
Yeah, well, that's Kathy. Okay.
She also anecdotally kind of just validated Adele Colgate's use because she said she knew her personally and spent a lot of time in the house.
All right, then I'm gonna make a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We have granted variances, requests such as this before, all right? I know that we have actually discussed whether 25% is the right number, all right? And you had asked the question before about whether we have granted variances to this degree on outside decks before. And yes, we have. We've done that a number of times, okay? Being the fact that, we have now become more of an outside living type community. And quite frankly, we've actually asked whether the Board of Trustees would maybe take a look at that section of the code and potentially make changes to it. Because it has been a variance that has been requested numerous times.
Yeah, and by the way, I
know
think
more
that makes
about
a lot of sense because
Should,
Campbell's speaking.
Campbell?
I think that makes a lot of sense, particularly because I'm not sure we want to encourage people to dramatically increase the size of the footprint so they can get around the variance and have the size deck they want by making the house larger. So I think that makes a lot of sense.
That's a problem. Yeah. John, can you remind me of a house where the decking is 45% or 46%?
I don't remember the percentages, but I do recall the Pays new house on Tower Hill Road. I had to come here for a variance, but I don't remember the percentage.
I actually, can you guys hear? So Back when I was thinking of building, I went to the BZA to ask for a variance on a house just because the footprint, we wanted to keep the footprint of the house to fit inside the property, and we were granted a fairly significant variance on the deck. I don't remember the exact percentage, but it was significant.
Yeah, my recollection isn't perfect, but I do remember that we have done this before.
Had several applications in front of you that have asked for substantial deck variances.
Right.
And I don't think any of them have been turned down. And I just for the boards, you're correct. You've mentioned a couple times during the meetings that you've made recommendations that the BOT, the Board of Trustees, take a look at this section.
About
Kind of
this,
like the fences.
the deck size.
Kind of like
Kind of
fences,
like
so
the
right,
fence,
took a
yeah.
while before fence
Mhm.
change made. And would you, if the board be ready to vote, and we'll go through the 5 factors?
I'm ready to go through the 5 factors. Yeah.
If you want to go through them, Elise, you want to?
Sure. Okay, so when the board looks at area variances, they do consider 5 questions. And they discuss these questions, make their discussion part of the record, and then they vote. So the first is whether granting the variance would result in an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties.
Well, in this particular instance, I really don't see how it would. I mean, the deck area kind of sits down low. And really there is no disturbance to property. So I don't really see where it would.
No, I agree.
Agree.
I agree.
He's nodding his head.
I agree also.
Okay, the second factor is whether the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by some other method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance.
Not really, unless it's taken down to the old deck. I mean, I can understand why you want the deck where the deck is, because now you're also then opening up the house to that, because I saw where you're opening up the windows to become French doors.
To the old deck?
No, to the new deck,
Okay, sorry.
because then that functions with the kitchen where the old deck doesn't really function. I mean, to me, it's more the question of whether the old deck stays or goes.
Right, but that is, in my opinion, another way around achieving the square footage within the allowable percentage.
So what you're saying is they could, by either taking down the old deck or reducing the size of the old deck to reduce the variance, or, so that's just a method that they could achieve what they want to do without.
If we chose to go down that way.
Yes, so just so you know, not, this is a balancing test. So these factors are not, oh, if one is, for example, if it's substantial, that doesn't mean you have to deny it. It's just one of the factors when you go through a balancing test of the benefit to the applicant versus the detriment to the neighborhood and the character in the village. So that's the balancing act. Okay, the third one is everyone finished?
Yeah.
Okay. The third factor is whether the proposed area variance is substantial.
Yes.
It
Yes.
is substantial.
Yes. It's well, 46 is nearly half of the square footage of the house.
So, yes. Whether the fourth factor is whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or the district. Will there be an environmental impact?
I don't see where
No.
it would be, no.
No?
No.
Campbell?
No, I agree with Jake.
Okay, and finally, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, which you can consider that relevant, but it's not necessarily, it doesn't necessarily preclude granting the variance.
Well, it is self-created. All these things.
They are, all- they're all, I mean,
self-created.
I don't even honestly know why they put that in. They're all self-created.
But then it says very
Right.
carefully, but it doesn't preclude you granting.
Yes, well, sometimes actually they're not. In other words, for example, there may be some environmental issue with the property itself that requires a variance. Okay, so sometimes they're actually not self-created.
Or even perhaps a code change that requires two-car garages in any new structure, and somehow that folds into a renovation and
Yeah,
being obliged to comply, things like that.
so yes, all are necessarily self-created. Anything else to say about that final factor?
No, and I guess the question is the board ready to vote? I would, do we have to get a motion to vote or?
Yeah, you want a motion to either, well, you can talk about the kind of a stripe, you would make a motion to either approve or deny. So somebody makes a motion to either approve or deny.
All right, well, I hate to see him have to take the old deck down, all right, if it was kind of part of the original house. And I see definitely it's a real enhancement to the house to have a deck that's now gonna go off the kitchen. And we have granted similar variances before, and I would be inclined to make a motion to approve.
So move.
We need a,
I
we have
agree.
to vote.
I second.
Wait a second.
Oh,
All in favor?
okay, you made the
Made
motion.
the motion.
Nancy seconded.
I second.
All in favor?
No,
Aye.
Right?
Um,
Yes,
to approve this.
Okay,
Yes,
so
yes,
so
aye.
basically, 3-1.
Okay, so, all right, you're the no and
You
the
were the
other
no.
three
Yeah.
are yes? Okay.
But are we putting some restrictions on this or some things that he needs to do?
Well, the restrictions really will be, as we discussed, and we need to make sure that they're in the records, that the BAR needs to make sure that the total railings are code compliant.
I would just note for the record that the plans have to be accurate. So, my suggestion is that a condition is added that the plans are revised by the architect or certified that they're accurate before and submitted to the board before you sign the resolution.
Okay.
yeah, we could have a few more dimensions on that, certainly.
Makes sense.
Because,
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm John will find it, because there's the little tag that goes and connects the new deck to the old. It's 5 feet wide, but there's no way to tell how long it is.
Okay.
You're missing dimensions too.
Thank you for that. I love that.
And the safety, have we code compliant?
Yeah,
Should be.
well, that's basically.
That-
that's the
That's,
real.
John, it's gonna have to be code compliant.
Right.
And you said something about the BAR to approve the railings. I'm sorry, Jake. I
Approve
didn't-
the railings, which is basically code compliant, in other words,
Okay.
make sure that the railings are code compliant.
Okay.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Pencil.
As far as, we also have the minutes to the meeting of,
Okay, you can.
oh, yeah, you're good.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you all.
All right, you got it. Good luck with the baby.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Appreciate it.
House.
I'm surprised that they're rather brave to, you know, go through all this.
All right, good night.
And we have the minutes to the meeting, all right? I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes to the September 4th meeting. Obviously, you can't approve them because you weren't here. But,
So move.
so, okay, we'll move. Second,
Second,
approval, aye?
Approve.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, so 3 approvals. And I'd like to make a motion to close the meeting.
second.
Aye.
He's been busy on the Zoom call, seconding.
Matthews want to talk to us?
Sure, is he?
Not on the agenda unless you want to entertain it. I don't know.
I thought not.
It's not ours to.
Not on the agenda. It's up to you, Mr. Chairman, whether
If
you.
it's not on the agenda and you're gonna tell us that we can't review it anyhow, so, no.
Does he know that? He knows that.
No,
I don't
it is
think he
not.
does. He doesn't.
Jake, can you hear me?
I'm not here to comment. I'm just
Oh, okay.
checking in to say hello to everybody.
Okay. Okay.
That's
And,
kind.
I will be in
I
touch.
mean, we had the meeting open to the public and you came on right after that, okay? So we closed it before that.
Yeah, no, I don't think I was here for public comment on this, any particular matter. I just haven't seen the machinations of the BZA before and just wanted to familiarize. So I'm not here to comment on either that nor any particular matter which may potentially come in front of your board for me. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
Tonight, anyway, thank you.
good night.
Okay.